Yes, good. Well, I think we should start with good night, very late good night, very early morning, and good morning, I think, would be about what we are at the moment. For those who don't know me, my name is Christina Cameron. I'm the coordinator of the theme of transformational impact of information technology. This is the closing session. And my co-anchor is Michelle Duong, who's a master's student at Carleton University. Thank you, Michelle. We're two generations, definitely. We figured out that I'm twice as old as Michelle. So there you go. So this is generational transfer. Okay, so we're going to start with opening remarks from the two co-conveners, whom you know, Mario Santana and Haifaa Abedalhaleem. I think, Mario, you're going to start.
Thank you, Christina. I'm so happy to be here. So we have been here for the last 20 plus hours with some breaks. So on behalf of our World Heritage, I would like to welcome you to our third event this year and our closing ceremony. And this is the second Globinar for the theme of transformation and impact of information technology. One of the 12-month debates on World Heritage issues being held through 2021. My name is Mario Santana, and it is my honor to be involved in this initiative together with Haifaa and Christina and all our team. Our World Heritage is mobilizing citizens and professionals to renew and reinforce heritage protection for the next 50 years. The monthly debates of our World Heritage 2021 aim to raise general awareness about the significance of our natural and cultural World Heritage sites and about critical pressures they are encountering from unsustainable development activities, climate change, and civil unrest, among others, and now pandemics. The initiative aims to foster opportunities for the involvement of civil society in finding innovative, sustainable solutions. For further information about our debates, please visit the Our World Heritage website. The IT team opened with its first Globinar on January 9th this year, and it was an incredible 23 hours that we are actually reaching with this one. We had about 120 speakers and panelists and over 900 participants from all over the world. The beginning of our global network of organizations, professionals, and individuals, as we can see from our Globinar 2.0. On February 6, 2021, we held our second event entitled Moving Forward, Innovative Tools and Unfold His Stories in Our World Heritage. This event's main aim was to announce the 9 shortlisted contestants out of 36 submissions for our competition. We also took the opportunity to share feedback on the policy recommendations from the first Globinar discussions. We also revealed for the first time the draft concept of the toolkit hub catalog, which we have been talking throughout the entire day today, and then we're going to have this focus group of emerging professionals. Today, our Globinar will occur around the world, as I said, in 5 sessions. We hope to get your input and feedback during all this process, and we also hope to hear from our reporters about activities that happen throughout the day. We will also announce the winners of the global competition at this closing event. We wish to say how highly we appreciate the time and effort of the 36 teams and thank them for sharing their ideas and expertise with us. In particular, we express our thanks to our industry partners, Capturing Reality, Cintu, Elucidaire, Timer Looper, World Sensing, and Sorel Froelich, who generously offer prizes for the competition. On behalf of myself and our coordinator, Christina Cameron, and now I would like to pass the floor to my co-convener, Haifaa, for some words. Haifaa?
Yeah, thank you, Mario. So first, I would like to thank everybody who's here and everybody who joined our Globinar 2, and it was very enriching and very, let's say, inspiring and insightful discussions and very thorough and deep feedback we received this day during the day. And the comments and feedback that will be also shared by our colleague Danny later today. the general feedback, and also these feedback came from different experts in different fields and different three key topics, which is capacity building, networking, and monitoring and interpretation, and data source and data management. So I would like to thank everybody who shared their expertise, their thought, and willing to help us to enhance our concept of the toolkit and give us these ideas and thoughts. And I would like also to thank everybody from the team that make this Globinar happening again. And we promise that we will have more discussions and focused groups meeting in the future. And if you would like to be part of these, please let us know and put your contact so we can reach you. Yeah, and thank you, Mario. So over back to you.
Thank you, Haifaa. So let's go back to Christina and Michelle.
See, thank you. And now I'm turning over to Michelle, and I think she's going to start with an icebreaker poll. Michelle, over to you. Unmute.
Thank you. Yes, here we go. So we're going to start by getting to know each other. So the first question, Aiden, if you could put the link in the chat, that'd be great. We'd like to know, from where are you joining us right now? If you can open up the link and let us know. Japan, US. Oh, Beirut is always huge. As soon as Joe is in the house, Beirut takes over. Korea, Savannah. Oh, Korean. Oh, it's always fun watching these be created. Oman, Canada, New York. The Globinar planet? Turin. Barcelona, wow. Yes, we are covering all time zones in this session. Thank you so much to everybody for being here. Okay, so we're going to go to the next poll. And question is, which topics did you come to hear about today? We don't have a breakout room for this session, but would be good to know what you were expecting to hear from our summary or from our emerging professionals discussion. So toolkit, yes. I imagine if you attended the sessions today, you'd like to know what happened in the conversations with the toolkit. Digital technology, professionals. I'm guessing the word emerging should be here somewhere. Yep, there it is. So I learned from Becca to do the one word, you can put an underscore between two words and it'll show up attached when you input your answer. Listen to our emerging leaders. Nice, nice. Great, fantastic. Okay, I think that gives us a sense, and I think you will hear what you're expecting to hear today. So, right, I'm going to stop the poll and then stop my sharing, and Daniel, go ahead. Okay. So we're going to go right into the summary discussion. I'm just going to introduce Daniele Paulino. She is a PhD student in the Department of Architectural Engineering at Penn State University. And she also attended University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Her research right now focuses on adaptive reuse of existing infrastructure, involving the use of structural engineering knowledge and artificial intelligence methods. So it's really awesome that we have somebody like Daniele on our policy committee. And so she's going to take us through today's panel discussions. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Michelle. So right now I'm going to present the summary that came up from all the 4 sessions, discussions, and we mainly divided them into 5 topics, which I will present now. So the first one is the capacity building and networking. So the main topic that came up from the discussion was the importance of advocating for the creation of both a repository of capacity building training and resources and networking platform, connecting professionals, communities, and site managers. Secondly, the pandemic has revealed the potential of online learning and the use of technology to reach broad audience. It has also refocused our attention to those on the front line and users of heritage sites. This makes now the ideal time to implement new digital learning and network tools. Therefore, network should promote interdisciplinary and address knowledge, and the tools should be flexible enough to accommodate new knowledge. Also, the knowledge, training, and tools available in the local language can help to expand this audience and overcome the language barriers. And we need more mentoring resources for training and capacity building also. Next slide, please. So there are already capacity building documents online, such as a UNESCO Heritage Capacity Building Strategy, which is highlighted here. Thus, it is important to refer to these documents while creating the capacity building networking. And also, open resource data may come up from different institutions, such as government institutions, or from independent or self-funded institutions, such as UNESCO or ICC Rome, which uses certain set parameters. Some government data might have socioeconomic, but might be missing other important information. So we might need to bring in additional data at certain points. This leads us to the following questions. How do you bring in data that tells you something, and who's got the skills to make this meaningful for us? So all of that came up from the discussions, and you will need to include this during the preparation of the toolkit. Next slide, please. Also, the second point was the tool and monitoring. So regarding the tools, we can come up with the following topics. Tools are required to cover a wide range of scales and heritage types, from natural landscapes to individual heritage features within sites. So right from the beginning, the workflow pipeline of digital tools is still too often expert-led due to access and availability of acquisition technologies. And in its specific professional domains, this is justified by scientific rigor of the research questions using highly sophisticated scientific methods, such as studying human impact factors in remote sensing analysis or engineering considerations. Therefore, we need to explore tools for the community involvement and data in the collection and content creation. The use of these tools has to be differentiated according to the application domain and purpose of the documentation in terms of documented skill, interaction with the user of the tool. Augmented reality approaches are widespread, and it is interesting to see how it is being diversified and engaging the communities. Next slide, please. So therefore, there are many tools already available to us, but it is important to actually turn them into a project and to create the right partnership, commercial, to make sure it is distributed to the wide audience. Therefore, the tool exists, but we need to make the local community involved and excited about it, which is a real challenge. Making the narrative relevant to the community personally is very important, focusing on the well-being and issues that are related to them personally is a stepping stone to strengthen the management of the World Heritage. During the pandemics, the tourism is devastated. Therefore, to build it back and better and strong, the solution is to engage the community as intimately as possible in development. And the education can enhance or influence the ability to understand and evolve using new technology. Therefore, the purpose beautiful heritage, it's a key characteristics. We may notice that it is important to involve the community in this process. Next slide, please. So during this process, another key point is the importance of accessibility and sharing, because open source databases have a variety of degrees of accessibility, such as cost and the technology that are required to this. So we need to shift the focus from the creation of an all-encompassing database to a sharing link of data between databases, because this sharing data reduces the redundancies in data collection, and therefore there are barriers to access that needs to be addressed. These barriers are to using new technology, whether they be knowledge, for example, how to use them. If they are too technical, for example, or if they have technical issues, for example, internet speeds, or economic issues such as the monetary cost. This project should then work to eliminate these barriers, and it is important to implement something that is accessible to communities. Another key point is about the collection of data. Therefore, we need to collect this data using real-time access and make available this data, because if we don't do this, there is no quality and it loses the importance with the time. Next slide, please. So as mentioned during the previous points, one of the main concerns is how to involve the locals in the data collection. Therefore, with the pandemic affecting the tourism, the solution for moving forward is engaging the community as intimately as possible in this development. So we need to build back the tourism, and we have to make it better and strong. And involving locals has a very important step in this. So it is ethically important to include locals in the process of collecting data and the creation of data standards. The data collected on heritage sites often includes data from locals who live around or in these sites. And some important questions that can come up from this is how to involve the communities in data collections and what are the best tools to use for that purpose. And does the community need capacity building for this? So we need to include this during the development of the toolkit. Also, guidelines on good practice for data collection and data management are needed, as well as development of common standards. Many more people are now capturing data in photographs, but would all that be useful? That also came up during the discussions. On the other hand, they represent a very useful data. They may not be free and open source. And also, what are the issues of digitizing data? Some data might not be in a digital form, so we need to address that during the toolkit development. Next step, please. Also, we live in a data-rich world, machine-generated and human-generated from social websites. So we need to differentiate between the useful and not useful for our purpose, because we do have a lot of data, but how we can integrate those data for our purpose, we need to differentiate them. So some other common worries about open source access data on heritage sites involves the security and misuse of data. So we need to link data collection to the objectives of this platform. We have to have a clear plan on how to select the right type of data, tools, and so on. So for example, remote sensing can play an important role for digitalized assessment and monitoring of heritage sites. And we also need to think about how we can communicate our message to other stakeholders. And also another important point is the data accessibility. We need to think if the data collected by certain experts for the project, it's made available to site authorities. And finally, we need to respect the cultural differences and privacy preferences. For example, some village communities prefer to not share data about themselves in the area, and the experts must respect that decision. Next slide, please. So all of those questions can come up to the development of the toolkit. So the toolkit has to answer the following questions. How can we get the data, all of this data in one space, and how can we visualize and use those tools? Also, the toolkit should have a very clear vision and objective to have a more effective implementation. Having one place together most of the available tools, data, and knowledge will be very helpful for capacity building and better conservation of World Heritage sites. Also, during the toolkit preparation, it is important to promote the involvement and feedback of not only the scholars and academics, but also local stakeholders and users. Also, one of these suggestions was to provide a checklist to help users to select the best tools for the cause. It is important to also include standards and recommendations during the development of the toolkit. Also, tools are required to cover a wide range of scales and heritage types, as mentioned before. So we have to scale from natural landscapes to individual heritage features within sites. Next slides. Finally, this is the last slide. So we need to create a synergy integration between the capacity building, monitoring, and data collection activity, because all of that complement each other. That there is a clear demand of standards guideline development for tools implementation, community involvement, and data gathering and management. So we need to bridge the gap between different stakeholders, for example, policymakers, professionals, and practices. Well, we also need to bridge different partners of World Heritage, such as the community, research, practices management in the authorities. The toolkit should clearly identify the top key audience and the objective to verify the best tools and methodologies in the capacity building programs. And I think this point has already been done. So it is important to encourage more active engagement at heritage sites with younger generations. And that's all of the summary for today's discussions, which is a long way to include in the toolkit, but I'm sure we can do with the team that we are creating and all the network that has been done in the Globinar 2.0. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Annie. That was a great summary. The The team has been working hard behind the scenes, I know, trying to gather all the rapporteur's notes from today. And we have a rapporteur today, right now, for the EP session, Rake, so thanks for being here with us. That was a great summary. I know the policy team is going to have a fun time with this next week, or you should take a break and then come back to it. But now we're going to, I'm going to turn it over to Christina, who is going to moderate the Emerging Professionals panel discussion. So Christina.
Michelle, we do have a bit of time, I think. And I think that Haifaa had her hand up, and I expect that other people have perhaps something to say, because we're good for time.
Sure, let's do that. Let's have a discussion about what we just heard. Haifaa, did you have your hand up?
No, actually, I was clapping for Danny, and no, I also like to thank everybody. Like as you mentioned earlier, like it's like a teamwork, and it was like very long day with like too many discussions and communication. Actually, we didn't finish also, so people like ask for more time to give more feedback, and we also welcome everybody to give us more feedback on like how they think we can do this. And so we try to summarize this into like this like these slides, but I believe like behind the scene we have like at least each session we have at least 8 pages of comments and notes and feedback. And yeah, and one of the things I would just like to highlight that all of the sessions, all breakout rooms clearly mentioned that we need to rethink how we involve communities. And I wouldn't use local community because because all of us at that in certain place we are local community. So how we can promote communities' role, and how we can like have more involvement from civil societies and a young generation, and how we can like bridge these differences and make like something more useful for everybody. So yeah, this is like my general observation about the day.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Haifaa. Is there anybody else who want to share perhaps something that they picked up from one of the panel discussions, perhaps that Danny just mentioned, that was very memorable for you?
Becca wants to say something.
Yeah, sorry, I raised my hand the old-fashioned way and didn't do it with a reaction. I think Michael Schuler, who's also still on this call, can attest to this. We were in a breakout room where we were supposed to be talking. Michael and I both thought we were talking mostly about monitoring, which is what our background is. But then Doug challenged us with a question about storytelling. And it was really interesting because I've seen those as 2 different strands throughout this whole process, this idea of storytelling and monitoring. But Michael, I don't know about you, but we kind of found a way that those actually did connect in the idea of people and their circumstances influencing structural choices, and those then influencing social and economic choices. Was an interesting dialogue to have out loud in front of a panel for the first time. I don't know, Michael, did you have something to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that engineering is boring or monitoring is boring, but the reality is that the art to our side of work, Rebecca, is getting the information out to all the project stakeholders in an understandable form. It's not of any use really if people don't understand what you're saying. So there is some storytelling involved, and that was maybe the direction the discussion went.
Was it Doug Pritchard who had challenged you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was sending notes through chat.
Yeah.
My audio kept fading, so luckily they only had to deal with my texts. But I do think, is what Michael's saying, I love engineering, and I love engineering architecture, and there's a lot of stories behind that there are people that want to learn about it. And a building is built by people, and there's always a story behind it. And sometimes it's more engaging than the typical narrative of why that building's there. You know, the people that built it and why they built it and how they built it. So I think connecting the monitoring with engineering and the stories and the narratives is a good thing.
Yeah, and then Douglas Comer challenged us, I think in that same session, that it's not, we can't think about a building in isolation. And so we could do this monitoring, we could do the storytelling about buildings, but we also have to do this monitoring and storytelling about the landscape and the environment that surrounds it and the nature that surrounds it, which again was something I think about in a limited capacity, thinking about environmental conditions, but it was a really interesting discussion, I think, at least in that room, thinking about storytelling and monitoring and nature and culture, all blending those lines.
Mario?
No, I like, you know, from the, I think it was the session 1 or 2 when we talked about community of practice. I thought that was a really nice concept. And also the interconnectivity that we saw in Patricia's keynote, you know, I think that that's one of the take-ons. And then the fun we had in the Spanish room and in the Portuguese room that we didn't want to leave the rooms. That was also nice. I think Haifa wants to say something.
Yeah, I remember today in the discussion, we had a new term, we hear the new term, which is like, actually these days we have someone who used like the term, we have a pandemic of tools. It's like we have plenty of tools and we need to now do like kind of filtering, what are the best tools, how we use it, and how this toolkit should promote the good tools and make it available for World Heritage practitioners or professionals. And I also would like go back to the telling a story. And this is like 2 days ago, I joined a workshop for sustainable development with Kent University. And we were talking about how we reconnect community to their sites, because some of these sites, like some of these communities lost their connection for several reasons. And I believe this is like, we need to find the story that they like. We need to create a memory for them, because if you love the site or love the location or the building, you will protect it. So like sometimes, yeah, these stories, like other stories, are more engaging and more encouraging for protection than like the typical, as Doug mentioned, the typical stories that we always promote for sites. Yeah.
Thanks, Haifa. You know, I was actually I had caught the last bit of session 3, a room in session 3 where Bijan and Nazi were having this intense discussion about it just reminded me when Danny was talking about, you know, consulting the communities and the data that should be private. And did you want to talk a little bit about that, Nazi?
Yeah, sure. I think Bijan, he brought a very important point is, you know, we most likely, he said from the academic side, we collect data, we build tools, we analyze it, and sometimes we forgot that the local people, that this is their data, they own this kind of things, and they are not involved 100%. And he thinks, and I believe that's true, and I'm sure all of us agree, it's very ethical and it's important to let the local communities be involved in this kind of process and be part of the decision making whenever any kind of studies or and the process, it should be like cover what they are, you know, to be that they should be involved in that kind of study. So I believe that's very important. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that's something I think this is really come, and I think it should, you know, it could be one of the recommendation in all the, like building the tool, the toolkit, or any other studies. Plus, you know, we talked about sharing the data. You know, that's also another important thing. It doesn't mean the data, it should not be in one place. It should not be just hosted in one central organization, there is a way and channel that data could be exchanged and shared between all those organizations. Also, a very important point, to standardize the type of data, the information, so that by standardizing this data, that will allow the exchange to be much smoother. Because there's different format, and all that doesn't no protocol, so all that kind of things, it could be avoided by working on towards standardization.
Thanks, Nazi. Christina, did you want to reply to that?
I didn't. I was going to make a comment about on following Haifa.
Okay.
Just to say that I think that what Haifa is saying is that there's sometimes a disconnect between the values that a local community places on the place and what the World Heritage System has put on the place through outstanding universal value. And just for the group here, I think it's in October, it was supposed to be a theme month on the World Heritage List, and it's now called Beyond the List, because it really recognizes exactly that issue. And how do you get a holistic set of values around a place? And that's probably in some cases going to be much more engaging for the local community. So I think those of you who are interested in that subject, I think that's really going to be an important month to follow that discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. I thought I saw another hand. Was it? Then it jumped. Was it Kenise or no?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment about storytelling and the interpretation of data. I work primarily in the museum field, so I work mostly with the exhibition design. So I'm at not quite at the heritage professional level, but listening to everybody about the collection of data and the interpretation of data, and looking at it from an exhibition designer's point of view, where we have to think about how we present that data to a larger audience who are non-professionals. It has been really interesting to hear about the collection of data and who is collecting the data and whose voices are being recorded in that data. So I think it's very important. Storytelling is definitely one of an important part of the data collection as well. Like, how is that data being interpreted after being collected, and who is interpreting that data? Because one of the things that comes up a lot when we're talking to museums or heritage sites that want to put up an exhibition about their collections is making sure that multiple voices are being involved in the process. So it's not just one particular interpretation. It has to come from multiple sources, and multiple voices should be heard through that presentation of the data. So yeah, and going back to not just involving local communities, but within those local communities, we have multiple voices as well. So making sure that those voices are also being heard when that data being collected is being presented.
Right, thanks, Kenise. Chloe, you had your hand up?
Yep, I do. And then just to continue this entire discussion, because I think that's very much relevant to what we're doing right now, and especially reflects on how we're using the data and how we involving the community to do so. And to reflect on what Christina have previously said, in our current exhibition, we actually having a session where explaining what is world heritage to local people. And then because right now the theme of the exhibition is the central axis of Beijing, which is really hot topic right now, because that one has been under the list for getting the World Heritage nomination. So there's a lot of talk about it, and then it's a really hot topic. But for many people, they're questioning about the things because they think that there has been work done since 2000. Why hasn't it been getting the title? And then there are also people who are worried about, why did it take so long, and then what can be expected in the future, and then did it get it or did it not get it? So there has been a lot of things, like although the people keep thinking, like keep hearing the World Heritage site, but no, the public didn't know what it is. So we designated the entire sections explaining what is the outstanding universal value, and then we put it out there as a poll for people to vote. And from what they know about the central axis, how are they going to define it? And then from their point of view, which of the 6 terms that they think it's suitable to describe the site. And also we make them to comment on it and say that if you think that those 6 cannot hold, what else can you think of? So then we will compare that to what the actual experts were discussing, because every year that's basically the key topic. How are we defining the site using the 6 universal outstanding values? So I think that's a way that we trying to making the connections of, like, just really telling people what it is, really explaining what it is, and then making their voice a part of the discussion. And that's what we've been doing it for now. And then also talk about how to involving the community. And that's another project that we've been working on right now, is to telling a really big story about the industrial heritage sites, but not from the material point of view, but from the people's point of view. I think that when we're talking about documentations, a lot of documentations were the subject of the documentations or the site itself. But I think there's also the aspect of the people who've been experiencing the site and who are still alive. And that's very relevant for us to telling the story of contemporary architecture or contemporary heritage, where the people who are experiencing the sites, their memory are still very much vivid. And then their voice are the one that we think are most omitted, because we often interested in sites that have long history, or that has been a part that we're thinking that those who have long past gone having more value in the sense. But then those people who are still alive, their stories were unheard because they're not considered as a top down, but it's a bottom up movement basically. So a part of the thing that we're trying to do is to tell the big story of the development of this industrial era, but through the point of view of individual, ordinary people, and then making their experience interweaving with the growth of this entire, like really, really big industrial enterprise. Right. And then how we compare that to a person's journal from their teenagers up to their retirements. So this is another way that we're trying to build it, but that's just going back to how we use the data, how we use the storytelling to bring people together. And then later I'm going to share a little bit with my my talk about how we basically using the technology and how should we focus on the digital literacy to make sure that the technology can be used by more people. Okay, super. Yeah, so I think, the Kanice and Nazi and everybody will, you talk about the different stakeholders, who's collecting the data, who's interpreting it, whose voice it is, but then underlying all that, what Haifaa and Mario are talking about in the chat, are ethics, and we really have to think about whether or not, we have a standard of ethics for this. But I'm going to just pause the conversation here, and perhaps that's a topic that the EPs could take up after they do their 3 minutes, but I'm going to turn it over to Christina to moderate the next section of this session.
Thank you, Michelle. You see, when you give people an opportunity, they have lots to say. That's great.
For sure.
So welcome to this part of the closing ceremony, which is the Emerging Professionals panel discussion. And we have 6 young professionals, 4 of whom are present, 2 who have sent videos, who have accepted the challenge of presenting a vision of the future for digital technology and heritage field. Not only that, they also agreed to do it in 3 minutes using only 1 slide. This is a short session, only 30 minutes. So depending on how much time we have left, I'll give the presenters a chance to comment on each other's visions if we have time. So what we're really doing is asking panelists to gaze into a crystal ball and tell us what they see. The specific question that we sent to them is, and I quote, Globinar 2 has just shown us where we are now in terms of the transformational impacts of information technology on heritage. What is your vision of the future for information technology? And our first panelist is Chloe. Hi. She's studied at Carleton University in Canada and at the Raymond Lemaire International Center for Conservation at KU Leuven in University in Belgium. And she's currently Vice President of the Tsinghua Institute for Digital Creativity. So, Chloe, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And I'm currently involving with the Tsinghua's Institute for Digital Creativities, and then we are focusing on translating research data to the public audience. So what we've been focusing on is making this bridge between the professional data to the things that the public audience can actually understand. So I think that during this entire process, and then back to our point about what can we look forward to the future, is that we definitely finding that the tools are limitless. So there's multiple tools, and then as we've been feeling that technologies were basically advancing day by day. So it's not the question about there's less tool for us to use, it's about the choice that we make to using the tools. And then especially when we're focusing in audience and then we're focusing public disseminations, the things that we're more focusing on are the workflow and interoperabilities. And this is how that from the data collecting point of view, I think there's multiple, we already heard multiple input on that point, that sections, but how do we translate those into the things that actually require lower digital literacy for the audience to access, and especially how are we going to use them as a user-friendly access? Because during the multiple, well, we've been having many community outreaches, and then we've been hosting multiple events and as well as exhibitions. During that time that we find that the digital literacy is really a thing that we should be taking consider when we're trying to reach a wider audience. And then we often thinking that, you know, people are quite comfortable with certain aspects, but then we often find that when we're reaching a wider range of audience, and then that literacy really shows up and down. And so right now, one of our focus has been to basically to dilute that that requirements for people to getting to use digital technology as a tool, and then not the other way around. So we have developing more preference over what technology to be used in what kind of storytellings. For example, that sometimes VR are preferable to be used when we're trying to basically setting people in another environments, but this often require really high site maintenance, because then there are a lot of people who are not familiar with the wearable access. So we need to have another person's on site to make sure that people get the service they need. Otherwise, they're willing to getting that information, and are basically their user experience were strongly affected by how difficult they can access that using. So sometimes that digital become something that stand between people and the information they wanted to get. So this is a thing that we're really trying to get through. And then I think that it's about the workflow. It's about thinking how human can interact with digital, especially taking the shoes of the normal public where they're not familiar with the technology. And the other thing that we're trying to do is that this as a tool for community building and then as an interpretation is that we know that people are using digital. So a lot of times that we're trying to do is not inventing a new forms for people to use, but taking advantage of the platforms that already exist for people to take it, and then to building our interpretation on those platforms. And one of the things is that, for example, people using mobile every day, but we are not going to building a new app for people to download on their mobile, because that chances for them to download another thing that are not familiar with, it's really, really low compared to using a platform, for example, WeChat, or taking the equivalents like WhatsApp. So we were basically developing platforms on a software that's already been widely used, so that they can be using as our tools to making the dissemination. So a lot of things that when we're trying to making, for example, site interactive games, so for people to basically visit the site, and then there are different viewpoints that they can actually punch in the information, and then they were returning the automatic data, so that we're making this kind of interactions, and then by using the already existing platforms, so that this way that people don't have to get through another way to get new things. They can just using something that they're familiar with. And this is another way that we're trying to basically build that bridges between the people and actually the things. So for us, I think that technology is a tools for us to use to get to the people, but if they're not using correctly, then I think that there can actually be obstacle that's standing between us. So for us, the future is bright, and then the tools are already there, but it's just for us to how to use it wisely.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Chloe. That's a very good point, and certainly using familiar tools would be very good for someone like me at any rate. So, but thank you for your vision. And our next panelist is Borna Farnod, who is originally from Iran and now a PhD student in the architectural engineering program at Penn State. And his research interests include the automation of the construction industry, computer programming, and the application of artificial intelligence to detect and localize damage in buildings. Now, he was supposed to be here, but unfortunately he got the jab today and he's had a bad reaction to it. So he sent us a video. So whoever is running the video, go for it, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Borna Rahnamay Farnod. And in this talk, I want to share my ideas about the future of the technology that we're now developing. First, I wanted to thank Michelle and her amazing team of collaborators who made it possible for us to gather and celebrate this event. Secondly, excuse me for not being able to join you in the live session. This is because I'm not feeling really well after taking the vaccine. So let's cut to the chase and answer the question that I was asked here: how the future that I see looks like. Believe me, there are a lot of interesting ideas that deserve to be discussed here, but I only had to pick a few key things. As you can see on my right, we now have the technology to capture and reconstruct our surroundings and its details down to the millimeter level, either using drones or other photogrammetry techniques. Also, we are now developing visual analytic tools that enables a decision maker to immerse itself into a virtual world where multiple sources of information are synthesized into a single model. This has made the decision making much more easier than how it was before. And in my opinion, these two technologies are the milestone for achieving the next level of cities, virtual cities. There's always been the need for us to bring back to life key pieces of human history. Most of these heritage was lost due to wars, natural disasters, and so forth. I mean, if you look up Wikipedia, the list of destroyed heritage that you can find there is not a very short one. And add the fact that we are in the middle of a global pandemic, which makes us less connected than ever before. Many of us, including me, we lack and miss the time we spent with our friends and family to explore and see beautiful places. By putting these two pieces of information, I think we are in a right point in time to be able to be receptive to this solution. Just imagine yourself walking down the streets of a virtual city that was built after a real-world scenario. Just picture yourself being with your friends and beloved ones. But now you're all able to connect in a new way. I know more or less it just sounds like a sci-fi movie. But as I just put it there, I think with all that's going around us, we are now more receptive to this idea. Another interesting and more radical idea that I wanted to share with you tonight is being able to bring back master architects to life. People like Frank Lloyd Wright or even Michelangelo. And this time, I'm not just talking about their creation, their sculptures, or whatever. What I mean is having their thoughts, ideologies, and insights at our disposal. If you look, there is a museum in France that has already given you the possibility to go and explore one of Salvador Dali's paintings in virtual reality. But still, this is just a recreation of what he has. What I'm talking about here is the idea of being able to discuss, for example, your architectural matter with Frank Lloyd. When you want to just build a house or design an entire city. So all in all, I think what we develop past here is what enables us to step forward to achieve these realities. And all we need is just a little push to get there. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. In absentia, Borna, I hope he's feeling better. Our next emerging professional is Efstathios Adamopoulos, who is currently a doctoral fellow at the Architecture and Design Department at the Polytechnic University in Turin in Italy. And he studied survey engineering and conservation of building materials at the National Technical University of Athens, where he obtained a master's degree in the protection of monuments. And he's also involved in the SEPA Heritage Documentation Committee of ICOMOS. Efstathios, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction and for the invitation. and despite the broad spectrum of my intervention, I will try to be brief. So, in short, my vision and hope for the future of information technologies in assisting preservation of world heritage can be generally summed up with three keywords: transdisciplinarity, planning, and application of spatial information tools. Transdisciplinarity because in this era of digitalization, still collaborators in heritage projects often capture their information separately, which does not facilitate the use or elaboration of data for decision making. In fact, heritage interpretation, documentation, diagnosis, conservation, monitoring, and management are not independent actions. Therefore, the collection and recording of information should be approached with holism, pushing the boundaries between disciplines, and should always involve the stakeholders to produce objective and useful results for all. For this to happen, we have to consider parameters of all methods involved and the core objectives of the conservation projects. Planning is, of course, necessary to boost effectiveness of heritage preservation. It may refer to different scales and can manage our resources, assess what types of technologies we need involved, not only for conservation planning, but also for valorization and dissemination, and to create practical solutions. The use of spatial information tools is interconnected with planning. They use as input the recorded transdisciplinary data and any kind of utilizable information we can source and contributes to decision making. At a global World Heritage scale, this may be a means to rethink what we define endangerment by anticipating the loss of heritage. And in a more practical sense, this may be a means to employ risk preparedness and formation of responses. At the regional or national level, they can assist strategic planning and implementation of actions with the involvement of governments, public, and organizations. Lastly, at the local level, spatial tools can produce tailor-made solutions for monumental heritage projects, practical toolkits, as have been discussed today, for when resources and specialized personnel are limited, and of course, anything in between. To conclude, I want to highlight again the importance of information and meta-information quality and the ethical obligation for creating complete, open, and interoperable heritage records. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sathi. That was very clear, and I love your slide. Thank you.
Thank you.
And another slide that I like. The next speaker is Joe Kallas. He's an architect specialized in conservation and restoration of cultural heritage and a member of the SIPA Heritage Documentation Committee of UNESCO. He's a member of ICOMOS. I said UNESCO, I meant ICOMOS. A member of ICOMOS Lebanon. He's currently working in Beirut to prepare 3D documentation of the port area of Beirut, which, as we all know, was devastated by that terrible explosion last August. So Joe, over to you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Christina and Michelle, for the invitation. I'm glad to join at 3 a.m. in the morning, right from Beirut, 4 a.m., sorry. Very interesting question. Actually, I can compare the situation like if we were back in the early 20th century and you're asking me, where do you see the future for electricity? Right when it started booming and being globalized, you know, and here we are a century later and almost every part of our lives and society depends on electricity and energy. So I kind of see the future of information technology taking the same path, and that we are now currently building the foundations of a complete digital future. So even in the cultural heritage field, digital technology is becoming a standard tool for the collection, preservation, and dissemination efforts of cultural heritage worldwide. From 3D configuration of ancient sites and monuments to applying artificial intelligence to shed new lights on how we perceive ancient civilizations, cultural heritage is definitely heading also toward a digital future. Regardless of how well they have been protected and preserved, a great majority of historic sites are naturally prone to corrosion due to age. In addition, there are incidents of unexpected natural and man-made disasters, as in the recent case of the enormous explosion that hit the city of Beirut on August 4th. Once a heritage site is lost, damaged, or destroyed, the restoration process is slow, if possible at all. Here we are in Beirut, 8 months after the explosion. Despite all of our hard work on site non-stop, there are still no single serious funding for a restoration project to date. In the wake of such events, there has been a growing voice and movement to digitize cultural heritage to preserve them in the face of potential hazards such as climate change, natural disaster, poor policy, or inadequate infrastructure. But as there were always been concerns about how to preserve physically our heritage to the coming generations, similar concerns are to be raised about how to ensure the preservation of the digital heritage that we are creating to future generations. While digital technologies offer a means of giving unlimited access to cultural sites today, access tomorrow is far from guaranteed. The question is, are we going to be enough responsible to deal with this digital era and the tons of data collection that it involves? Are there going to be limits or ethics? Because as you know, humans tend to be extremists sometimes, especially when we see ourselves succeeding in something, we keep on pushing it too far until it explodes eventually. Unfortunately, history has shown that humankind has always been irresponsible. Thank you.
Oh dear, that's a sad note to end on. I have a complaint about your slide. I think it should have been a woman emerging for the race, not a man.
It's Joe.
Yes.
It's a neutral kind. It's a neutral kind.
Yes, I had to make that comment, but thank you. That was very good comment. For someone who remembers the old USBs and or the old, the B-type tapes and the DVDs and all that don't work anymore. Okay, our next panelist is also coming to us by video because of it's so late. And this is from Sasha Musonge, who is currently living in Uganda. And she recently completed her PhD with the Faculty of Biosciences Engineering at Ghent University in Belgium, with a thesis on the ecological assessment of rivers and streams in the Rwenzori region of Uganda. And Rwenzori Park is a World Heritage Site. So let's see what she has to say.
Vision of the future for information technology is advancing sustainability of World Heritage Sites through connectivity. This post-COVID era has given us the potential to collect a before and after data set to understand the impact of human activities on both natural and cultural heritage sites. And with this crucial database, one can have the chance to develop indices and understand how these human impacts have been affecting and influencing the different World Heritage Sites. Information technology has the potential to help us change the way World Heritage Sites have been managed in the past. And this can be done through the use of orbiting satellites to have real-time monitoring of, for example, natural sites like the Rwenzoris, the Kilimanjaro, and see the snow melt, looking at the influence of climate change on these World Heritage Sites that will have an impact on different ecosystems. And when we also look at the cultural sites, real-time monitoring can give us the human footprint and see the carbon footprint of how these sites are being impacted by the numerous visitors who come. And with the advent of the internet, we can harness the power of this global connectivity to create regional hubs and centers where different experts from the north can share their stories and their expertise with lagging the lagging regions in the south on how to conserve and preserve their sites before anything gets more dire. And through information technology, the World Heritage sites can be significantly preserved for future generations. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting that two of you have mentioned the climate change as a key pressure. And it's interesting because information technology and climate change are both global issues, as is the pandemic. So our last panelist is Tennessee Mills, and she's a recent graduate from the University of Southern California's School of Architecture with an MA in Heritage Conservation. She currently works as a researcher with Cultural Site and Resource Management Foundation. Her concentrations look at the nexus of environmental and heritage conservation, maritime communities, and California narratives. So Tennessee, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Long day. First of all, just thank you very much for having me. What I envisioned for technology and heritage and how I really thought about this question is first acknowledging that technology is not my strong suit. I know many of you have a lot of strengths in that. So I had to consider it kind of creatively, or I came from it from a different approach perhaps. But I really am very passionate about this relationship between environmental conservation and heritage conservation and making sure those two things communicate, because I really feel like that is very necessary. So when we're considering heritage technology, I think it can be an asset, but just as easily as it can be an asset, it can be weaponized. So I want this to be a main consideration for the formation of policy, which I feel like is inevitable around these technologies and their variety of uses and the data it produces. And I think that's actually a very urgent discussion, especially as it rapidly adapts and changes and kind of invades these communities. And I don't mean that in necessarily a negative way, but we're looking at a lot of change very quickly. So something to think about on the ethical side of this, which I think has been really well discussed, which is really great to see. So my question is, what does that technology policy look like? And then, we're walking into these cultures and these communities, it's a privilege. So for successful future technology and heritage conservation, it has to consider the relationship between heritage conservation and environmental conservation, which is already a battle. And then how does that technology that we're coming at from lots of different and creative angles, how does it give these communities that exist in these threatened environmental spaces agency? And how are they able to utilize it for their needs? So just the examples that I pulled up are various projects that I've worked on or have been published on. And one of my favorites is the traditional stilt homes of the Korowai, which is in Papua New Guinea. And they have this really environmental, cyclical architectural style that has been going on for thousands of years. And there's maybe one generation left of these people. And it's because of deforestation, of pollution, of climate change. And so what can we use these technologies for that support these people and these communities? And talking about access, you also have, the Arctic indigenous peoples, you have the sea nomadic people just off of the Philippines, the Sama, and then you have even spaces that have been issues of race, right, and racial erasure. So even my hometown in San Pedro, California, Terminal Island was a big cannery. It was a major part of the environment here, and it was shut down in part because of environmental effects from chemical spills and DDT, but also because of internment camps and racism and whatnot, and so totally erased the Japanese fishing population that was there. So I'm really interested in what technology can do to uplift heritage and environment conservation together. And then, like I said, how it gives these communities a space, a voice, and what that can do. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Tennessee. And I think that we're pretty much out of time, but I'm struck by some of the common themes that I'm hearing. And one is really around the whole question of interdisciplinary, transdisciplinarity. I mean, that whole theme, which is an important one. I also, almost all of you talked about communities, which is interesting, and building communities and respect for communities and so on. And it might be, in a way, communities of practice in a sense. The rapid, you all assume there's just going to be a rapid expansion of digital technology in the world. And are we ready for it, as Joe says? And it's going to keep changing. And so are we ready, and so on. And the other one is the question of the social and environmental context, the pressures, the need to engage on that we need to use digital technology to help those issues rather than anything just on its own. So I found that there were some interesting ideas there, that the community keeps coming back. So thank you all. Those were 6 really good, snappy explanations of where you think the future will be. I probably won't be around to see it, but you will, and then you'll be worrying about it more than I will. Well, I do worry, obviously, but I do see.
You will be there, Christina. You will.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. Well, you know, nobody lives forever, but I keep seeing people who live to be 100, so maybe I will be.
There you go.
So anyway, let's move on to the next part of the program, and which is the award ceremony for the global competition. Now I'm sure there are people here just waiting. And so we have, as I say, we have hosts for the award ceremony, and I'll just quickly, one is Becca Napolitano, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Architectural Engineering at Penn State University. And we know that Becca is an enthusiastic and energetic core member of the IT team. And Douglas Pritchard is a Canadian graduate architect. He's been our head of the business team connection. And he's currently in Winnipeg due to the pandemic. I guess it's his hometown, but he's been there for a year now. He's a senior research fellow at Cyprus University of Technology in the area of 3D visualization, and a lecturer at Johns Hopkins University in Cultural Heritage Management's master's program. He specializes, the last time I introduced him, I called him a professor. So I feel badly about saying that this time you're not a professor. He specializes in the creation of interactive virtual environments, immersive 3D experiences, and customized software development, has directed many innovative large-scale projects in Canada, Scotland, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and the USA. And anyone who was in our breakout room today in session 4, we got to see some of those projects. So I will turn it over to Becca and Douglas. It's your show.
Christina, I'm sorry to interrupt before we go to Becca and Doc.
Did I miss something?
No, I just wanted to mention something about the before we give the floor to Doc and Becca. They have a very important job, but I just want to say that Becca has been leading the evaluation team, and Doc has been working with the industry partners, and the evaluation team has worked independently from everybody else in the in this initiative. Okay, so we keep the evaluation completely separate to give a fair chance to everyone. Okay, so
Yep.
Thank you, Becca, for
Thank you for saying that. That's an important point. Thank you. Okay, over to you two.
Yeah, definitely. Many thanks. First of all, big thanks to my co-chair, Jonathan Bell, who was not able to be here. Also, thank you to Michelle, who was so kind and sent me a strawberry and a Oreo bubble tea from Canada to the United States. And I think if anything says just like world peace right there, it's like Michelle. Thanks, Michelle. Also, I want to also thank our evaluators. Margaret, I know that you are already participating in the chat function. You're one of our evaluators, so thank you so much. But the rest of our evaluators, including Margaret, reviewed 36 proposals for the first round, and then they reviewed 9 proposals in our second round. It was a daunting task, given the quality of the submissions and the range of initiative and valuable approaches that they covered. In terms of how we scored them, the criteria included team composition, appropriateness of the technology that they discussed, description of key aims and challenges, and explanation of the needs and budget. So before I dive into who our winners are, please, Doug Pritchard, let us know what those winners will be competing for.
Okay, hopefully my audio will hold up. If you can, if one of the techies can go to the page. Okay, so I'm gonna mess this up, Daniel, because it's not as straightforward as you think. So we have basically 2 sets of prizes, one for all the winners, and then one for the first place winner. We also have an opportunity for 2 people from one team to join an event, and I'll get into that in a second. And that could be from any of the 5 potential winners. So if we can, the first one you see here is from Zoller and Froelich. It's the use of a brand new ZNEF Imager 5016 laser scanner with all the operating software as well as online training, which would mean that the scanner would arrive at your site and that there would be people online to assist in operating it with you and teaching you how to use it. It's probably the Mercedes-Benz of laser scanning. But actually, one thing I just realized I forgot to mention, this isn't, the work that you're seeing here, all these prizes, has been a group effort between, with 2 other very important people, and that's Joe, who just presented, possibly the hardest working person I know, and Hei Sung, who also helped on this tremendously. And the big picture with all these prizes is that it was remarkable how quickly all these organizations agreed to support this. I think that's a very unique sign. I mean, it's a very healthy sign that these companies are committed to cultural heritage. Zoller and Froelich is an example. This is a very expensive laser scanner. And when we contacted Dr. Froelich for him to provide us with some kind of support, and we were thinking maybe it could be, you know, a rental of a scanner or something like that, he just said, we will give you a scanner, which was amazing. And we all sat there with our mouths open in complete disbelief, including half the team at Zoller and Froelich, because that's never happened before. And that's because Dr. Froelich in particular is very committed to World Heritage. So that's a prize that will be given to all of the winners that will be announced today. So if we could go on to the next one. So capturing reality. This is another one that will go to everyone. These are free perpetual licenses from Capturing Reality, as well as expert software coaching. And if you have the chance, take a look at their website. Capturing Reality has just been recently purchased by a video game company, and I can't remember their name. I'm sure Joe will post very quickly in the chat.
Epic Games.
Epic, that's right, yeah. So they've been kind of busy. They're a small company in Eastern Europe, and they do amazing software. And what they're capable of doing is taking imagery or photogrammetric data and scan data and put together beautifully photorealistic websites or models. So that is free licenses, perpetual licenses for all the winning teams. Next. World Sensing. Now this is more of an exclusive prize. This is for the first place team. And this is a physical hardware unit, a sensing unit that would arrive on site. And it includes the necessary device, sensors, and software. And coaching as well. Next slide. Sintu. This is another award that will go to all of the teams that win. So this is an online cloud system. I'm quite a fan of this approach, that you can upload your data onto this cloud and you could visualize it. It contains all the scan data, all the imagery, associated information, the time the scans were taken and all that kind of stuff, but a great communication tool. So, you know, maybe in a year or two, the winning site could be documented, or one of the winning sites could be documented, put it onto Sintu Cloud, and we all could be walking through it right now. I think it's a fantastic tool to communicate the condition of a site in real time. Next slide, please. Time Looper. This is Time Looper has been mentioned, I believe, a few times today during some of the presentations. A great way to time travel in virtual reality, and they are providing a 1-year license for the winning team. Next slide. Yes, the last slide. So this is the interesting one. This is well, they're all interesting actually. This is a Lucidera. So what they're going to do is offer 2 free registrations with travel costs included for 2 winners of the winning teams. And they're doing this very generous offer. And I'd have to say that the teams are going to have to put forward 2 people that would fit into this program, simply because it's a very expensive program, and so they want to make sure that everything works perfectly. So all the teams will be invited to submit names to this training session. And those are our prizes.
Thank you so much, Doug, for introducing those. I am very jealous, and I know that so many other people that I am texting are also very jealous of those prizes. Joe Kallas, I am calling you out for wanting a laser scanner. You should have put it in an application. So without further ado.
Next year for sure.
Next year. All right, sounds good, Joe. So without further ado, let me get to the matter at hand and share the top 5 projects with you. So we actually had 2 people tied for 3rd place and 2 people tied for 2nd place, which we were not expecting, but we were very excited about the quality of applications. So in terms of the 2 people tied for 3rd place, we had Kahuzi-Biega National Park, Democratic Republic of Congo, Dr. Augustine K. Babose from the Democratic Republic of Congo has played a leading role in the conservation of great apes in Central Africa for more than 20 years. In this project, they look to use camera traps for close surveillance of growers, gorillas population, and other animal species living in the area. Additionally, they are looking to use drones to monitor deforestation, poaching, mineral extraction, and other illegal activities within targeted areas of the park. Is there anyone here from Kahuzi-Biega National Park that would like to give a 2-minute spiel? I know we're dealing with different hours of the day, so I'm not anticipating most people are here. If I miss you, please just comment in chat and we'll go back to make sure that you get your thank you speech, because who doesn't love a good thank you speech at an award ceremony? All right, the 2nd team that tied for 3rd place in this competition was Ma'arat Al-Numan Museum in Syria. This is the ARC project, also called ARTIVE. This project aims to engage local communities near the museum to provide training and technical assistance in digital archiving, photogrammetry, and online registrations. Training can be accessed by average Syrians through portable broadband devices and satellite internet. And I know that we do have a representative from this team here. So would you like to step forward and say something for 2-3 minutes?
Most certainly, Rebecca. Thank you so much. We are so honored, especially because of the strong competition that I've seen present here. And all of the others who really brought forth some amazing ideas. We are so looking forward to being able to use some of these tools to to immediately begin work in Syria and to add to what we've already been doing there. And I think that these will really work extremely well with the team that exists. And I'm hoping that some of the training modules or training sessions with these individual businesses will really bring about even more ideas that we haven't even thought about in terms of possible cultural heritage preservation beyond what we mentioned in the scope of the project. I have to really put a huge thanks out to Ariane Mosier and Kamal Patterson from ARTIVE. We at the ARC project have worked with them for the last year, and it has been more than a pleasure to look at the synergies within both of our organizations and see what we can do together. And so this is a great first step for us, and we think it's the first of many. And I also have to put a large thanks out to Brittany Delaney, who is with the ARC project. She's our director of operations, and she's been extremely tireless in moving this project forward. So I just, again, I want to thank everybody on our team, on the ARTIVE team, but most importantly, I want to thank all the mentors who helped us through this process, and of course, OurWorldHeritage in general for even being here. So thank you all so much. We're so proud.
Great, thanks, Scott. When I met you on today's earlier session, I didn't even know which project you were on, but it's great to have put a face to a project name here. So thanks for giving that speech. All right, so those were our two fantastic teams tied for third place. Tied for second place, we had Wulingyuan Scenic and Historic Interest Area in China. Professor Fang Han is the director of the Department of Landscape Architecture in the College of Architecture and Urban Planning at Tongji University in Shanghai, China. Dr. Chen Yang was an assistant professor at the Department of Landscape Architecture in the College of Architecture and Urban Planning at the same university. Additionally, Professor Fulong Chen is the vice director of the International Center on Space Technologies for Natural and Cultural Heritage under the auspices of UNESCO. Wulingyuan Scenic Historic Interest Area is one of the first 3 World Natural Heritage Sites in China. This provides a new World Heritage experience through the application of contemporary information technologies and imaging technologies, and works to bridge the gap between World Heritage and local communities through the use of the Wulingyuan Nature Cultural Lens project. This project aims to develop a head-mounted mixed reality system in order to bring people closer to this site. Congratulations to the team from Wulingyuan. Is anyone from this team present here and would like to give a thank you?
Yes, this is Chen, but because I'm in a field trip, so my video is not working, but we're all, and my team members are all waiting for the results. So we're very happy to hear about this, and we really appreciate the panelists and also all the process, the discussion with Time Looper, with Brett Levy, and with all the conveners are really grateful. And they give us a lot of suggestions, because this is really a proposal to solve the local challenges in the World Heritage area. So we are really happy to hear about the comments and suggestions to improve the whole proposal. Actually, we are traveling to this World Heritage site next week. So we will show this final version of the proposal to the local community and get more, get their ideas about this. So hopefully we will develop this natural and cultural lens to be a real product in Wulingyuan, in the near future. So I think thank you very much for the organizing this wonderful competition. We really enjoy all the journey. Thank you very much.
Chen, thanks so much for being here to give that speech. I'm really excited to see the work that your team does and how it turns out in the end. So thanks so much for being part of our World Heritage IT. The other team that tied for second place was Sagarmatha National Park in Nepal. This team is led by Dr. Mingma Norbu Sherpa, who is the CEO of Himalayan Trust in Kathmandu. The three key challenges facing Sagarmatha National Park World Heritage Site include that the project implements narrative and social media strategies to establish a 15-minute online happiness index survey, and that they're trying to measure both the well-being of the local community and the park in the face of climate change. Additionally, they're working to deal with the dwindling wildlife populations. The results of this project will be a tool for community engagement in developing new strategies and solutions. Do we have a representative from Sagarmatha National Park in Nepal?
Yep. Hi, Paul. I'm Paul Rogers. I'm the founder and director of Planet Happiness that is partnering with Mingma and the Himalayan Trust team. So I'm very pleased to receive this wonderful news. Thank you very much to the organizers. Mingma is up in the mountains at the moment and unable to join us, but I'll get a message to him. I'm sure the whole of the Himalayan Trust team and many colleagues in the Khumbu, the area that I know so well myself, and I'm also looking forward to sharing this wonderful news with my colleagues at Planet Happiness. We believe we have many people call our work inspirational. There are sides to it that we've not yet shared with you. And we look forward to developing synergies where we can with the World Heritage Initiative to see what else we can achieve together to celebrate the many World Heritage sites around the world and have them as test beds for happiness and well-being to promote this well-being agenda moving forward. Thank you kindly to everyone.
Yeah, Paul, thanks so much for being here and being able to represent the team. I'm so excited that you guys were able to come in second and get access to these wonderful technologies and these wonderful resources that OWH has worked so hard to procure. Without further ado, I did pull up a drum roll noise. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. I don't know if you can hear that
Yes,
or
Danielle.
not. You can hear it? Okay, cool. I was really worried about that. In first place, we had the historic city of Ahmedabad, India. Samiha Seth was the Director for Innovative Development, ICID, in Ahmedabad. Dr. Esther van Siekelenburg was the Director and co-founder of iDiscover app and map from Hong Kong. This project helps Ahmedabad look at locals to gain agency in the presentation and interpretation and understanding of this old city. It's based on a 2-year pilot storytelling project with a strong focus on the lesser heard voices of women and children. Is anyone here from the grand prize winning team to give a thank you speech? Might be the wrong time of day for them. It turns out when you run a 24-hour Globinar, someone's going to be asleep when you announce the prizes. No worries. Congratulations to this team for putting forth a project that not only won first place, but actually scored a perfect score in the final round. So everyone else who contributed, I am so happy that you presented your work, and I'm so excited for the work that you guys are going to be doing based on resources that you were able to gain today. There were a lot of great projects. I'm happy to have had the opportunity to learn all about them. And I would like to turn this over now to Mario Santana has his hand up. Mario.
Yes, thank you, Becca. I just wanted to say for all the groups a big thank. It was really a pleasure and an opportunity to all of us as mentors to be with you. And just to say that we are planning to make kind of a publication with all the entries, and especially our 9 entries. So please stay in touch. We will be contacting you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mario. So, and thank you so much, Becca and Doug, for taking care of that entire session, announcing the prizes. What fantastic, fantastic projects. And I'm just reminded of the happiness, the Planet Happiness Index, just the happiness exuded in this room right now. That's fantastic. I'm gonna just turn this over to Christina for our closing remarks.
Thank you, Michelle. And before I go to my closing remarks, such as they are, I'd like to, well, first congratulate all the teams, but and note how many of the projects were based on community benefit. And I think that's really quite wonderful. But I did want to thank all of the different teams that have made the global competition a success. And that's really the mentoring team, the evaluation team, the industry team, and congratulations to all of you who got such wonderful prizes. I'm astounded, and I'm sure everybody else is sitting here saying, gee, I should have put in a project, because this is really, it's really quite wonderful. And Mario was always pushing and saying we have to have prizes, but I think that they maybe even exceeded his expectations. So I just want in general to thank all of the speakers, panelists, moderators, anchors, everyone who's been involved with today's 24-hour Globinar. And I'd also like to, for our session, recognize the work of our rapporteur, Abedalhaleem, who's going to deliver us a report, and the technical support from Aidan and Bethel and Daniel Walber. It's really appreciated. There's a lot of technology going back and forth here. And I also wanted to congratulate all of the participants in the global competition, all 36. It was really fantastic that everyone stepped up to present projects that gave us different ways of understanding what technological solutions were there or could be used. And that's very helpful from a policy perspective and the building of the toolkit. And I want to specifically express my appreciation and admiration for Michelle Duong, my co-anchor, not only for her co-anchoring job, yes, you can clap, this is good, but also for her leadership in bringing so many disparate pieces together for Globinar 2. And I mean, anybody who dared to go in and look at the mural board could only partly understand how many pieces were moving, how many moving pieces there were. And finally, I wanted to also thank the co-conveners of this theme of information technology, Mario and Haifaa, who give so much of themselves. And I'm pretty sure when they started, they didn't anticipate what a big commitment this was going to be. And I can only imagine. And before I go on, I wanted to give each of them a couple of minutes to say what they would like to say in this closing. Mario, do you want to start?
Oh, I give the floor to Haifaa.
Haifaa, would you like to start?
Yeah. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Christina. First, I would like to thank everybody who actually, like from the team that make this happen. And also, we would like to thank the toolkit team. And like, you can't imagine the amount of work and discussions and meeting we had, like a weekly basis. Sometimes we have bi-weekly meetings just to have something like to complete, to present. Yeah, I never imagined that we will have this workload, but to be honest, I'm happy because it's also bring hope for me and for many experts. And I also noticed like friends who I invited them for the first time, they were hesitant that they might not have the ability to change something. But like the second time I invited them, they were very like inspired, motivated, and they say like, yes, I feel the energy, I feel the spirit that there are other people like us would like to do something for World Heritage, and we will make something, we will make change to protect our World Heritage. And this is like the message I would like to share, that all this energy and efforts, I feel that it pays off. And we will see you for other focus group discussions for the toolkit. Yeah, and thank you. Thank you, Christina. Over to you, Mario.
Well, it's been an adventure. I remember that phone call sometime, I think it was in May last year when I talked to Christina, and we make this plot, to take over the world with transformational impacts of information technology. And then I contacted our SIPA emerging professionals, and this multiplied into this great team. I have to say that it's been a privilege, an honor for me to collaborate with all of you. I would like to thank Haifa because she has been our connection, to nature and culture, and also tirelessly working for the toolkit. Mentors, our mentoring team was really excellent. The evaluation team, the policy, Lori has been really great. And all our industry, also our industry team, so liderized by Doc and Hazen and Joe. But I think that a big thank will go, of course, to Christina, because if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be here, right? All talking and organizing all this. And I think it's really important. That shows, I have always admired the capacity of Christina to mentor others, and I feel blessed to be one of them. So thank you so much.
You're too kind, Mario, and it was perhaps a great gift because you've had to do so much work. But this is quite serious. I really want to thank each and every one of you for teaching me so many new things. I mean, Michelle, top of the list, but there's so much that I'm always on the edge of my technological capacity because I obviously grew up in another era, and it's been really a privilege to work with you all. And to speak a bit to what you said, Haifa, I'm convinced more than ever that the time has come for a civil society organization. When I see the mobilization that has happened in this theme, and it's happening in other themes, and in the end, World Heritage is too important to leave in the hands of government and UNESCO. I think it really is a time for a civil society. It's a time for communities. So I feel really strongly about that. And it's as if we're unleashing a new generation of caring young people who want to make a difference. And that's really very satisfying. And so I look forward to the next steps as we go along. You'll see various pieces, so more consultation, and then the policy committee is going to have some heavy lifting to do in the next couple of months. And we'll carry on. It's been a great day. And thank you all for your attendance and your presence and your enthusiasm and your support. So take care. Sleep well, those of you for whom it's almost the dawn is coming up. Have a good day for those of you at the other side of the Pacific Ocean. And for the rest of us, I guess we go and have our dinner.
Yeah. So.